we're going to look at two exchanges, two deals, two bargains, maybe, that we are invited to receive. We might call them the Great Exchange and the Daily Exchange. That's what we're looking at today, the Great Exchange and the Daily Exchange. And they both center on this word, righteousness, which is at the heart of the piece of armor that we're exploring today. And righteousness is a word that pops up right across the story of the Bible. It's often woven together with other words like holiness or justice or mercy. And the reason it's woven together with those is because at its heart, righteousness in the Bible means living in right relationship with God, others, and creation. That's what it's all about. It's right relationship with God, others, and creation. But from the moment that Adam and Eve eat of the wrong fruit in the garden, humanity has known brokenness rather than rightness in those relationships. God's question to his people in the garden, "Where are you?" isn't because he didn't know where they were. It's because his heart was breaking that they were hiding from him rather than drawing close, which was always his desire. We were made to be loved. We were made to be known by God and loved by him. Thanks, mate. This is my son, so that's okay. We are made at our heart to live in a place of relationship with others and to live cultivating God's abundant, generous life throughout all of creation. That is our essential design. But the problem is, those broken relationships between God, others, and creation now sit instead at the heart of who we are. What we need is a great exchange. And this is where we come to the balloons that I know have piqued many of your attention since I put them out. On the surface, there is not much between them. They are both blue. They are both inflated. They are both sitting on a table. And yet, I can assure you that these balloons are completely and fundamentally different. These two balloons couldn't be less alike. And no, before anyone gets too excited, one of them is not cake. That would be an exceptional sermon illustration. Could you imagine that? That doesn't make the point quite that I'm needing to make at this point. It's not that these balloons are made from different things. Both are made of the same rubber. They're from the same packet. The difference is what's inside. So I'm going to take this balloon. This one is filled with my own breath. In other words, a load of hot air, as you'll be experiencing this morning. It is everything I can use in my own strength to puff myself up, to make myself seem impressive. But what happens if I let this balloon go? It sinks. It sinks and is taken away by my son. It sinks, scientifically speaking, because what's inside me that is now in that balloon is heavier than what's outside it. That's true for me. It would be true for you. I don't think there's anyone here who could inflate a balloon and see it float off up to the ceiling through their own breath. That's true for every person who's ever lived. What weighs us down is what the Bible calls sin. Sin, the things that we've personally done and not done, the legacy of broken relationships we carry from our ancestors, its power in the world through our systems and structures, our cultures and habits which have not been shaped by God's grace towards him, others, and creation, but instead have been shaped by curving in on ourselves. We do not need a pep talk that inspires us to do better. It's not like if I blow more air into that balloon, it might float eventually. No matter how much I huff and I puff, it's not going to happen. The same is true for us. We need to exchange the fundamental substance of our inner being for something new. This is what Jesus comes to do. See, this balloon is not filled with my own breath. It's filled with helium. And helium is, scientifically speaking, lighter than what's outside it. And because helium is in the balloon, the whole balloon rises and rises. And if I was to let it go, it would rise and rise and rise and keep rising until it hits the ceiling. When Jesus says, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light," I don't think he quite has helium in mind, but it's the same principle. His life is light in its fundamental, essential nature. If righteousness means living in right relationship with God and others and creation, only Jesus in all of history has lived up to that. I'm going to pass this balloon over to my friends here, who have been eagerly waiting. Only Jesus can honestly and genuinely say that he has lived in every moment, thought, word, and deed, honoring God, obeying his word, loving his people, acting with integrity, and caring for his creation. And this is the great exchange. On the cross, Jesus exchanges the fundamental substance of our inner being for something new. And what he exchanges it for is himself. He takes all of our hot air, all of our huff and our puff, and he exchanges it for his breath, which is light and brings life. He takes our hearts of stone and exchanges them for hearts of flesh. He takes our filthy rags and exchanges them for princely robes. He takes on all that we are and all that we have done, and he gives us instead all that he is and all that he has done. This is how Paul puts it. For just as through the disobedience of one man, many were made sinners, so also through the obedience of one man, many will be made righteous. Or elsewhere, God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. This is how Dane Ortland puts it. Here we come to the core difference between Christianity and every other world religion. We become acceptable and beautiful before God, not by what we bring, but by what Christ brings. Not by what we do, but by what he has done.